Hey viewers, 2Fortis here. In this video, I'm going to talk about my predictions that I made on the One Piece card game Treasure Cup tournament that happened this past weekend, and what I thought was going to happen and what actually happened. And I also just want to talk about the format of the tournament and some thoughts about some of the games that I saw in the tournament, and then just some closing thoughts. So here I have a chart of what happened in the Long Beach Core TCG tournament. And so I'm not sure if you can see this, but this top graph here is a breakdown of all the lists that were at the tournament. I did give a prediction that some people might not show up. There was a total of 512 entries, and I think about 490 were able to make it to the tournament. So I did predict, obviously, that some people might not make it. The other thing that I was wondering if there was going to be all decks represented in the tournament, and a king was in the tournament, as well as a blue crocodile, which were both at 1. So I believe now all the decks did make it for the OPO1, and that was one thing that I was wondering about. So here is a breakdown for a kid. There was 134 kids. Purple Kaido next at 92. Zoro very close at 89. And then kind of falls off to Luffy at 55. Law 49. About the same numbers there. And then a little fall off to Dofi at 40. And then from there, 10 or less of all the other decks there. So the top decks were Kid, Kaido, and Zoro by quite a big margin, and Kid, of course, by a big margin. Down here I have what I predicted and what actually showed up. So I'm not sure if you can see this, but Kid I predicted to be at 150, and there was actually 134. So I got that right. And then next, Kaido was next. Kaido, there was actually 92 players playing Purple Kaido, and I guess 55. So that was a little bit wrong for sure. My top decks of people playing were going to be Kid, followed closely by Luffy, Zoro, and Dofi. And so that was almost correct, except that Purple Kaido was my prediction was 55, and there was 92, so that was definitely a little bit wrong there. And about laws I said 30, and there were 49. I did get it backwards with the Luffys and the Zoros. I thought there were going to be more Luffys than Zoros, but there were actually more Zoros than Luffys. I had Zoro at 60, and there was 89, and Luffy at 70, which there were 55. And then for sure Uta, I thought there were going to be more than 2 Utas. I guess 15, but there were 2. And then Blue Purple Crocodile, I was at 25, but there was actually 10. So that was my predictions for what was actually going to be in the tournament. I think my predictions were a little bit closer to what happened at Niagara Falls in Canada. But I said that I was going to compare it to the Long Beach tournament, and so that's what I am comparing it to. For the top 16, I do have another chart here showing the top 16. And so here there was 1 Zoro, 1 Kaido, 2 Red Green Laws, 2 Kids, which I was really surprised that there were 2 Kids, Also, two Dofis, which I was very surprised that two Dofis made it. And then the most represented, which again was another surprise, was Luffy coming in at four, I believe, four Luffys. So very interesting to see that. And the the person who won was a Luffy deck. So very interesting. I did not expect Luffy to win. So that is the tournament breakdown. Now, I just want to give you some thoughts about what happened in the tournament. And so I did watch a few of the games, and what actually happened in the tournament was there was, after playing 9 rounds, then there was a top cut to top 16, and top 16 was best 2 out of 3, and then that went all the way until there was a first place for the top cuts. And so the biggest thing that I was very interested in was that for this core TCG event, it all happened in one day. The Long Beach, everything, all games were played in one day. So if you played in and made it to the top 16, you've already played 9 games in a row, and then you're playing 2 out of 3. And then so if you went to the top 4, like your 9 games, I think you're probably already playing like 8 or 9 hours. And then if you get to the top cuts, then you're playing a lot of games, like 14 plus games. So it is crazy to do all that in one day. I know they probably did that just to save money on convention space, but I believe the Niagara Falls tournament top cuts were played on the next day, Sunday, which gives players a little bit of a break. And I think that would be better, although probably a little bit more expensive, as you're renting the tournament room for 2 days instead of 1 day. And so I did watch a few of the games on stream, and some of them were a lot of the later games. And just playing that many games is pretty crazy. So for sure, when I was watching it, I did see definitely some overall it was good, but I feel like some of the players were not playing up to their full caliber, and that's probably due to a few reasons. For sure, playing so many games in a row. I've also heard at the convention that there might not have been food in the immediate area, so it was a little difficult to find food. And then if you're in that situation, then you might not have slept very well the night before, so you're already running on low amounts of sleep. You probably flew in there from somewhere, and so those are factors that could contribute to misplays on certain games. I for sure just playing one game or 3 games, as I go to locals that usually we play 3 games, and I make misplays on 1 game. So after considering all those, I definitely can see how there can be some misplays. But what that does, I think, is it kind of potentially gives a negative experience for viewers watching these top plays, because these are supposed to be some of the best players, and when they make mistakes that seem like they would be pretty obvious from just the viewer, keep in mind that all of this factors are happening and going on, and it can be, I think, very challenging. I did find out, I know one person that was from my locals that went there, and they did fairly well. They got top 8. And I didn't realize, because I'm lucky to have a pretty big local scene. The one tournament that I can't go to on Sundays because I work, but I heard that the Red Green Law player who came in second and won the the first top cuts, the best of 9. They went 9-0 and made it first place into top cuts. They were the only person to make it 9-0. Is also a local player, as well as the kid player who I've played a few times, and I know that person has put in quite a lot of games and is definitely wins every single time at our locals. And so both of those players did a lot of work. Now I would say that I did watch the game for the top cut to get the 9-0 record, and for sure there was one major mistake that happened, and perhaps potentially he shouldn't have won. But again, you have all these factors to consider. The other thing I want to talk about is I saw some chat rumors that potentially the person who goes to my locals, who was playing a kid deck, who went to top 8, was potentially cheating. He I guess there was a breakdown of his deck list, and potentially on stream he played something that might have not been following what his deck list was. So I would say that he has put in a lot of games, and I don't feel like he is the person to cheat. If you make a mistake, obviously that's not good, and that's not what we want. But he has done a lot of work. He's played a lot of games. He wins every locals. And whether you have an extra card in your deck or submitted the wrong deck list, I don't believe would really. It is cheating because you did something wrong, but it was definitely not intentional. So I think he's going to continue to be at the top tables, and you're welcome to checklist him. I'm not him. I don't know him from personal experience aside from just playing One Piece, but he's taught me a few things, and I played against him a few times, and really nice guy, and I do not believe that he was intentional for if he was going to cheat or not. But that's not what this stream is about. I was really surprised that so many Dofis made it, as well as how Purple Kaido did not do as well. And I'm really surprised that so many Luffys made it into the top 16. The other game that I want to talk about is that the finals game for first place. Again, there were some errors, and I think that's just due to fatigue. But that's just the way things happen. I didn't think that Dofi was viable, honestly, in the meta. I personally struggle against Dofi. I have a hard time beating him, but I figured that people who play more than me, and people who work on playing against all the decks would know more tricks on how to play against Dofi. But it's very interesting that he made it into the top 16. The game against in the top 8 match, I believe, for Dofi versus Kid. That Dofi player had all the answers at the right times, and he had two Mihawk on. I believe they played 2 games, and he had 2 Mihawks on both games, which slides his kid down to the bottom of the deck. You play the Bartholomew Kuma, and he had a Pacifista every single time. When I play that deck, and I haven't played that deck much, that never happens. I think he was running 4 Mihawks, but to have a Pacifista every single time is pretty crazy. I hardly ever get them. Even if I'm running 4 copies of something, I hardly ever see it. And then, so that's pretty crazy that he had that. And I think he just had all the answers, along with his counter. He had so many counters in his hand. There's odds are that you're not going to be able to block that final kid attack, but he was able to counter out of it. So he just had all the answers, and that's just the way the cards fall, I guess. So, but overall, it was a very interesting tournament. I thought more Kaidos were going to show up. I didn't expect Luffy and Dofi to be as prevalent in the top 16. So very interesting results. We'll see what happens in the next few weeks, as well as now the purple film edition deck is available. We'll see if that is going to shake things up a bit, or if people start taking deck lists. So tell me what you think about the tournaments below, and like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for watching. Bye.